Boat Trader is America's largest boating marketplace with over 100,000 boats to choose from. We offer simple, comprehensive solutions for those looking to sell, find, and finance new or used boats. Visit BoatTrader.com to get started.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Whether you're just looking to stay warm during a hunt or need maximum concealment, the clothing you wear can make or break a hunt. At MidwayUSA.com, we understand hunting clothing has come a long way with more meticulously crafted camo patterns, advanced scent control technologies, and weatherproof options to withstand the elements. Hunters have to wait until their favorite season, but shouldn't wait on gear, which is why Midway USA offers super fast shipping. When you're ready for your next system, log on to MidwayUSA.com.
Outdoor Drive Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Outdoor Drive Podcast. This is your boy East Coast Trev, and I'm with my good buddy, Mr. Madman Mardick. What's up, dude?
What up?
Dude, it's turkey season, bro.
It is.
I'm excited, man. There's just like so many great things going on. Turkey season's been phenomenal. I mean, it's a grind, but it's been phenomenal. You know, we've had some really good hunts.
Yeah, for turkey season's a whirlwind, dude. It comes so fast and goes so fast. It's nothing like deer season that kind of trickles in, kicks around for a while, heats up, and then trickles back out. Turkey season's just wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, in and out.
It's a true statement, right? Because like you could be running and gunning, and then bam, you're in it like Flynn. You know what I'm saying? Like it's there. You know, you can have so many highs and lows that it can be very, very stressful very quickly, you know. It's good, but it's here. And then, you know, it's funny, before we got on the podcast, we were talking about deer hunting already. You know, like we're like, oh man, we got to get the cams in. We're talking about reaching out to Troy Pottinger and getting some sense from him and getting ready to get on that scrape game, dude.
Yeah, you always got to stay ahead of the next season, because if you don't, you will wake up one day and go, shit.
I guess the thing is, if oh man, I just picked a tick off me. That's not good.
That's because you don't use permethrium.
Well, I mean, I was trying to. Oh, he's getting away on my desk. Oh man.
Get him.
All right, got him. All right. So, anyways, no, I was just out scouting. We were both out just scouting, man. We were trying to find some birds.
Hitting the old owl hoot.
Dude, what's funny is I ripped through an entire piece of public, probably did like a mile and a half, maybe 2, and I didn't hear a single gobble. And that, talk about the ups and downs. I can go in there tomorrow morning and they'd be hollering.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything where I was tonight either, but it wasn't one of my hot spots. It was just one of those spots I haven't been doing a couple weeks, and there was some birds there before the season opened. I was just kind of checking, see if they were still kicking around or maybe somebody else found them.
Speaking of, people
nights like that though, where they just don't want to talk, and you text all your buddies and you're like, you got anything? No, I ain't got anything. You got anything? No. They're not talking, and then the next morning they could be hammering.
Well, think about this. I mean, like, the night before opening day, both of us went out scouting, and like I got one gobble all night long, and you're like, I didn't really hear much neither. You know, like it happens.
Yeah, I wish I knew more about turkeys than I do, but I mean, it could be the weather, it could be the temperature, it could be I don't freaking know, the barometric pressure or the humidity. Who knows what, but there's sometimes they just won't shut up, and there's some nights you can't buy a gobble, but
I know, but there's been a ton of birds that have been killed lately. Super
Oh,
excited.
I got a killer's corner if you want to.
You got a couple of them. Go ahead, rip them up.
I got I'm getting word here that maybe Jeremy McGillicuddy killed a bird today.
I saw it. I did see it. I messaged him.
Our good friend Ken D put a bird down.
Oh, don't forget about my man Ken D.
No, and you know what? As soon as he sent that picture, for some reason I was craving that blueberry loaf that his wife made us last winter. I'm thinking, how good would that be as a little mid-morning turkey wood snack?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Incredibly.
We got the ROTV boys putting them down in Vermont and I think Maine too. Maine and Vermont.
Yeah. Yep. A little bit of mixed emotions there. Yep.
And then my man Mason Perkins. I got a double shout out for Mason Perkins. So he put 3 longbeards down last week.
Jesus. Dude.
And I believe I think he got his buddy his first bird too. But what Mason doesn't know is I actually peeped his high school baseball game today. He doesn't know I was there, but I went and checked out my buddy Maddie's kid was playing, and Mason was on the other team, so I got to see both of them play today.
That's sweet.
And Mason's team won. They whooped up on us pretty good, but it was fun to watch.
We got John Felfin. He shot
Felon?
2. Yeah, Felon. He shot 2 birds. Chris Keckler.
Little Chris Keckler.
Yeah, Chris's boy, Mr. Keckler himself. He got one. Who else got one? Oh, our boy Brandon Ashford, bro. He's like
Brandon Ashford's killed like 4, I think.
4, dude. Our boy Steve Champa, dude. He come up into Connecticut and smashed them, dude. Like, come on.
Yes, sir.
Who else on the list? On the killer's corner. We got Cason Carpenter. He killed that youth bird. That was, my boy Cason Killer Carpenter. I think that's it, man. There's a pile of them. Guys, there's a bunch of our friends that have killed birds. They just didn't put them on the killers. On the killer's corner for the outdoor drive on Facebook. So if you guys do kill something, no matter what it is, catch a fish, kill a turkey, find a shed, post it up in the outdoor drive so you can get on the killer's corner. We'd greatly appreciate it. We can shout you out here weekly on the Outdoor Drive. So go and check that out. It's called the Outdoor Drive on Facebook. And then we have our regular page, the Outdoor Drive Podcast. So don't forget about it. Got to keep Steve busy, dude, watching out for them killers' corners. So we got to make sure to be filling.
What about you? You been out at all since the last podcast?
Yeah, we hunted Rhode Island, bro. We both did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did we record? Oh no, I went out. When did we record? Thursday night? I went out Friday with Maddie.
Yeah, you hunted Friday with Maddie.
Yeah. So I filmed Maddie kill one pretty early. Another super weird bird. Like we knew he was there. He gobbled, but we couldn't see him. He was like kind of around the corner. We were hunting a field edge. I'm not a huge field edge hunter, but that's how we hunt at that spot. Mm-hmm. And it's cool. It's different. And the hens worked out in front of us, and then they kind of like went back into the corner. We're like just around the corner from where we could see. And then they came back out again and then went back. And then they finally got by us. And then the gobbler stepped out. And I don't think he saw us, but he was acting real sketchy. And like I said, he didn't gobble much at all. And he kind of got a little weird. So he like kind of tried to take off on a little trot. And Maddie just smashed him in the back of the head and rolled him in the field. And then what happened after that? I got on a public land bird a couple hours later. Or Maddie scooped a shed after that.
Yep.
So we killed the bird and found a shed the same morning. Got on another weird public land bird. Only this one, this guy wanted to gobble a lot. He wanted to talk, but setup just wasn't right, man. He was like hung up between like a old grown up stone wall, like overgrown stone wall, and he just couldn't figure out how to get around it. So I made a move on him, tried to get like 300 yards parallel to him and try to call him down the wall, so he wouldn't have to cross it. And I got him to gobble like 3 more times in the same location. And he wasn't moving. So packed up, back to Maddie's we went. Beepa hit us up and said there were some birds in the field. So we got over there, made a little spot and stalk on them, got tight and hit the call. They gobbled. They came around the corner, and it was 6 jakes. Got some real good footage. One of them was a you want to talk about super Jake? This is like super Jake. He had like a 6-inch beard, dude, and like damn near full fan. And I mean, I could have rolled him, but I'm like, he's with 5 Jake. So got some good footage of them. Let them walk, and you know what? That's private. That's a good farm. We listen to music.
Yeah, I was trying. Yeah, it was. I'm sorry.
What are you watching, reels while I'm talking? I haven't listened to you. Just
I am listening to you. I got tagged in
TikTok.
The outdoor drive got tagged in Average Joe's podcast, and I thought it was something that somebody killed something, so I was like trying to check in on it. That's Johnny Cimetti, so I was like, oh, I gotta see, maybe he killed something, so we could have popped in a live killer's corner. But sorry, so go on. It was a super Jake. I was listening.
I was just saying it's one of our pristine, like, you know, private farms that I'm privileged to even, you know, be invited to hunt every year. So I let all the Jakes walk or whatever. And then Sunday, Rhode Island, dude, I had one of the most epic hunts I have ever had. It had everything besides a kill. Our buddy Sean Polk was up from Virginia. He hunted his dad's farm, you know, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we were talking. I was like, dude, why don't you come hunt Rhode Island before you head back to Virginia, you know? And I honestly didn't think he was going to take me up on it because it's like an hour and 45-minute drive from his farm to where I hunt Rhode Island. But he met me there a little after 4 Sunday morning. Dude, just classic Dave Owen style hunt, man. Like, we got back in the timber for first light, got up on a high spot, heard a bird gobble, way off. Oh, actually, let me rewind. I messed up Saturday night. I tried to pull a Steve Champa. Tried to get tight to the roost, right? I've never been a good roost killer. And I guess I'm just not aggressive enough. So I remember listening to Steve Champa talk about how tight he gets to the roost and how he'll like walk right in on them when they're already on the limb and find that spot to set up. So I roosted a bird in Rhode Island Saturday night, pinned him. I knew where he was. But I wanted like a better idea where it was because I don't know these woods, right? Like, it's not my home. So, dude, it was after 8. Like, it was pretty dark. And I started creeping up this trail, and I checked my phone, and I swear this bird was like 250 off the trail I was on. And I looked up, and the bird flies off the limb, like right over my head. I still swear it wasn't the same bird, but I bumped a bird off the roost. So, whatever. It is what it is. You live and learn.
It happens, dude.
Yeah. And regardless, I knew, you know, he's only going to fly so far. He's still going to be in that block of timber come morning. So me and Sean got up in there. We get up high. Nothing's gobbling. Hit the owl hoot a couple times. Nothing's gobbling. And then we hear one gobble way off, like opposite side of the road the trucks are on. So we gave it a little while longer. And we went and run that bird down. And every time we drop a pin on this gobble, we'd pick a spot we could move up to. This bird's 400 yards out. We get up there. He gobble again. He's still 400 yards out. We move again. He gobble again. He's still 400 yards out. So finally, it got to the point where we're like, all right, let's just leave this bird alone. Let him do his thing. Like, we'll drop a pin on him now. We can always come back later and hunt this bird, but let's go back across the street where we started. I know there's birds back there, and let's just cut and run. So that's what we did. We got on the hiking path across the street, started working our way out, cutting and running, just taking our time, going real slow, real quiet. And we get all the way to the back. And we strike a bird. And when we strike a bird, this bird's like inside 100, man. Like, it's just one of them gobbles where he's that bird's right here. So we set up quick. We got a good setup. We're like right, just classic top of the hill. Like right when he comes over the top of the hill, he's in range. And dude, first bird that actually wanted to gobble. If you yelped, he gobbled. If you yelped, he double gobble. Like, this bird is fired up, right? And but he's not coming. So I checked the map. He's on the other side of a ravine. So we've got a river and a creek bottom between us.
Right.
So after a little while, I look at Sean. I'm like, dude, he ain't coming. We got to get on his side. So we pack up. We back out. Again, I'm using my hunting app, Hunt Stand, seeing where all the hiking trails are, and I find a trail that will like kind of take us around this bird cross the river and get up the other side of him. So before we moved, like I always do, I drop a pin exactly where I think this bird is. We cross over the river. We come up the other side real slow. We set up again. We're 250, 300 from where I dropped that pin. So I'm like, this bird should be right here. We set up. You good? I'm good. Yep. I got the camera rolling. I hit the call, strike the bird. Dude, they moved way up the hill. And the time we moved, they moved. So now I'm working the bird downhill. And I end up calling in 2 longbeards to like 80. And they're gobbling, man. Like they are fired up and they're coming down the hill. Sean's in good position. I'm sitting there, cameras rolling, and then wouldn't you know, a couple joggers come jogging on the. We were just off the hiking trail, and 2 joggers came running through, and one bird ran one way, the other one flew the other way, and that was the end of that hunt.
That's the worst. And you couldn't get back on them?
No, dude, one of them flew all the way across the swamp.
Holy crap!
So, but I'm hoping those birds are still in there for this Sunday.
I know.
Because they were deep. They were deep. Those birds were 2 miles from the parking lot. When I say 2, I am not exaggerating. They were 2 miles from the truck. So I'm hoping nobody else found them. They're still in there hanging out on that hillside, and I can get on them Sunday morning.
Hopefully. I can't believe, it's just one of those things. Like I was up there also hunting some different public than you, and dude, I got on some birds like right off the rip. Never even stepped foot in this place. Never seen the place, whatever. Just picked the place on the map and was like, all right, we're going. So got in the truck, was on a big hill on the road, get on the road. Bro, they were everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, all right, here we go. And so I like go down the road, try and get on them again. And like I was like, all right, I'm close to him. So I was like, all right, let's do it again. And then it was silent. I'm like, what the hell? All right, I'm going to go down the road. So I find another bird, and I'm like, all right, cool. So get all geared up, get in there, man. No gobbles. I didn't hear a single gobble. We ran around that place for probably 2 hours. And just once they hit the ground, I had nothing, dude. Nothing at all. And I ended up bumping into this guy coming out. I was on this back road and I just kept stopping, trying to strike something. And I run in this dude's hunter coming down the back road there. And I see he's got Rhode Island plates on him. And I'm like, hey, man, any luck? He's like, nah. I see some tracks up ahead here. My buddy's down the road. I was like, oh, cool. I said, you local here? He's like, yeah, I'm from here. But I got an outfitter down in Texas. And I'm like, oh, really? I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, man. So we was just kicking it back and forth, just having conversation. And he's like, hey, man, they're about to have a dirt bike race in here. So if you find a bird, you better get him killed quick because they're about to, have a race. And I'm like, oh, man. So I started thinking about it, trying to find another bird and I'm like, oh, I know there's a bunch of birds in this block. Like, I just got to get on one. Just need one to holler back. So I said, screw it. And I was like, I don't want to be running around these dirt roads and have a dirt bike come around the corner. I mean, could you imagine, like, a whole fleet of dirt bikes come around? They're small roads, And I'm like, I don't know, man. So I pieced out of there. We took a ride north about an hour, 45 minutes. And we went in this piece of public. And there's, like, a swamp that divides us. And I tried to strike a bird. Well, it striked on the other side of the swamp. So I'm like, oh, man, we got to come all the way out and then go around and try and get over there. So we get over there, and I'm trying to get set up and with the camera and this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, we just got to go a little bit further, so he's got to come up over the hill. And I went a little bit further, and I could just see his head. And I'm like, fuck, he got us. So he goes around, and I can hear him, and he walks around us. Now he's like, he's gobbling back, but it's not, like, crazy. And I'm like, ah, man. So I can hear him. He goes up there on the ridge, and he hollers back a couple of times. I'm like, all right, we got to go up and get around him. So we start driving up the road, and I could see him off the side of the road. He's like 3/4 strut. And I'm like, oh, there he is. So we try and get around him again and get up above him. And he hollered back like 2 or 3 times, but like was going away, Like he knew something wasn't right. It was just not right. So I said to Australia, I was like, if I go, let's just sit here for another 15 minutes and see maybe if he'll come around or there's some other birds. No sooner, dude, I ripped out my aluminum call. Dude, lights out. I'm like, what the? I'm like, all right, get ready. I said, here they come. She's like, is it the same one? I go, no, it's not the same one. I said, they come from the other holler. Dude, I hit that call. Those things cleared like 100 yards in a matter of a second. And here they come. Ow, ow. I'm like, oh, here they come. So they're coming, and we're all situated. We're around the tree. I get her all situated. Now, mind you, it's the first time ever hunting. And, you know how this goes, and trying to do it. And, two, the gun is a little bit too big for her. So I'm like, just throw the gun up. And she's like, I can't hold it. I'm like, all right, then just put it down on your knee. And when they get closer, I'll tell you when to pull it up. I can see them just coming, dude. I mean, I'm talking they cleared 250 yards, 300 yards in a matter of minutes. And I can see them, and I'm trying to get them in the viewfinder of the camera, and they're at like 55, 60, and they're like strutting, and they're just like locked up. And they came into about 45, and I said to her, I said, you can kill them. I says, when you get an opening, just switch the barrel to the lower barrel, which is 5.55, and it's tight. I says that thing. That's why we shoot tungsten, so we can have that range. You know what I'm saying? I don't like shooting them that far, but what are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like, just it's now or never. And she flipped the barrel. She shot, and no biscuit. And what happened was, when she flipped the barrel, I thought she was on the other barrel, but she went to the full choke instead of the extra full choke. And we spent the rest of the day trying to get on something, but I think we couldn't go far. We only had like an hour and a half left, and just no dice. So hopefully they're still in there, man. I mean, it was beautiful. There's a ton of birds up there. I mean, I was blown away. I was like, for what it was.
Yeah, it's I didn't notice or think about till you're telling that story. I struck my birds on the aluminum call too.
Did you?
Well, I struck them on that new mouth call, the top secret one,
double top secret one.
But the aluminum call made their heads pop off. Like they lost their shit when I hit them with the aluminum.
That's so one of the things. I mean, always my go-to is the Cedar Ridge Runner with aluminum on it. Always, man. I don't know what it is. Or, the windbreaker is always the other one, the aluminum windbreaker. If you know how to run that call.
What's the fatter one?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's the one I was using.
Yeah, and it just, dude, sometimes, man, it just they'll holler back, Like, it's nutty.
Just a different pitch.
Yeah.
Especially, too, I think, a couple weeks into the season, public land birds, you got to think they've been called to before. Mm-hmm. You got to think, excuse me, there's got to be a little less guys running around cutting on aluminum, right? Like a lot of box calls out there, a lot of slate calls, mouth calls, but anything you can find that might sound a little different might give you a little bit of an edge,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because it's like that time of year where like you want to kind of like pitch it back a little bit and just kind of like a little bit lighter calling, just because there's been so much aggressive calling for such a decent amount of time, but then you whip out aluminum and they fire off. Like, I just don't get it.
That was another thing I got jammed up with too, right? Like those birds were so comfortable, right? I had time to slow play them, and I tried to like shut up on them because they knew where I was, and they had the higher ground, unfortunately, so they could see there was no hens there. And I tried to like shut up on them, just go quiet and just let, curiosity get the best of them. But in the back of my head, I kept telling myself, like, this is public land. Like, they're gobbling. Other hunters could hear them. Like, at any moment, this whole thing could get spoiled,
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't wait too long, and it ended up happening anyways, because it got ended by a jogger. So at one point I kind of lost my patience, and I kind of overcalled them a little bit, but they were freaking hammering. They just weren't coming in.
Yeah.
You know, another thing I noticed in that story too, between me, you, and I was also talking to Steve Champa that morning. We all had a pretty slow morning. We were all around the same area, right? We all had a pretty slow morning, but all three of us struck and worked birds at almost the same time.
Yeah, and it's funny is that morning was kind of crappy. You know, it was a low pressure system. Like, I didn't expect anything until mid morning when it broke, anyways. To be honest, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just one of those things.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think about that. It's like slow for everybody, and then it fires off at almost the same time. Like Steve texts me, he's like, "We just struck one," and I'm like, "I'm working one right now," and then you text me and you're working one. And it's like we all hit at the exact same time.
Yeah, it's definitely. It's crazy how that works, dude. It's it's crazy. It's never ending. You know what I'm saying? It's just never ending.
I like the 1 o'clock shut off though.
I do, because the problem is I would have grinded there way too long and then have to go to work and the next day. I mean, definitely would not have been good.
Yeah. But I'll be back. I love that place, man. That place
too. I'm sold on it, bro. I'm sold on it. And, you know, what's funny is, you know, after talking about that, like, I'm ready to do it again somewhere else. Because it's kind of fun. Running and gunning, watching the old Onyx, so.
I think that's the beauty of turkey hunting, right? Like, I mean, you can do it deer hunting too, right? Like, you can go in blind, find sign, get in a tree, and kill for sure. A couple days or one day, right? But turkey hunting's different. Like, you just got to get within earshot, and you know, e-scouting wise, like you just find the right terrain, the right vegetation, and a spot where there should be a bird, and you just gotta get in there and find out. And if one gobbles, you're in the game.
Absolutely. Well, man, let's break through the sponsors and let's get on with the podcast. I know we've been jabbing up for 25 minutes here.
I forgot we had to do other stuff too.
We get excited, dude. I mean, that's the passion of it. So, all right. Well, we are title sponsored by Bowtech. Refuse to follow. Guys, we're super excited. Bows have been delivered. We will be going through the steps and procedures of our Bowtech bows. Some really cool stuff coming on the YouTube side. If you're not already subscribed, go and check it out. And go to your local bow shop and go check out Bowtech. I know we talk about go and try every single bow, but feel what's comfortable for you. Some really cool stuff. The SS and the SR, the Carbon 1X, and all of the products that follow with those guys, Black Gold, Center Mass, Tight Spot, Quivers, all that good stuff. So go and check that stuff out, bowtecharchery.com. Huntworth is the official camo of the Outdoor Drive podcast. Huntworth, get more for less with Huntworth. Been tearing it up. I love my Huntworth gear, dude. I don't think I'll ever wear another piece of clothing as long as I live, to be honest with you. They cover all seasons from start to finish, from your Durham to your Shelton to all of your heat boost stuff.
We needed it last week too, bud.
I know, dude. It was crazy.
Those first 3 days of turkey season felt like deer killing mornings.
For sure. Bro, it's funny
when Maddie killed his bird Friday morning in the field, the field was like hard frost. My boots were covered with snow after walking through the field.
Bro, it was crazy. Opening day, my dad showed up in heat boost. And I'm like, Dad, you realize what that stuff is, bro? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, you're going to die. And he's like,
I'm not going to lie. I wore my Elkins. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I wore my Elkins. And then, you want to hear something else funny? I didn't actually bust out my Durham pants, which is like my go-to turkey killing pants. I didn't bust those out until Sunday morning when me and Sean went to Rhode Island.
Yep.
Well, I haven't worn them since like middle of deer season. Well, they still smell like skunk, for the record.
I know. Remember, I hunted with you, and every
I
time
don't think I wore them that day, did I?
Oh, you definitely did, because the truck smelled like skunk, dude.
Like, all right, that's what happened. When we hunted together, I didn't wear them for the morning hunt when it was cold. But remember, I switched in the parking lot before we left. Yeah, they definitely still smell a little skunky.
Yep. Yeah,
but it's cover scent. You know, the turkeys can't smell me if I smell like a skunk.
It's good for you, dude. Well, go and check them out, guys. Huntworthgear.com. Always some great sales going on over there. Fourth Arrow Camera Arms. Fourth Arrow Camera Arms. We're actually running their tripods, dude. Spot on. How do you like the new the new fluid head, my dude?
Oh, it's I love it. That other junk I was running before was like, I don't know, some cheap one from Amazon, and it worked. But the Fourth Arrow's got a little bit longer. What would you call that? The arm?
Yeah.
The arm's a little bit longer, which is nice, especially for the turkey wood, because you don't have to reach up so close to the camera.
Right.
And that's smooth, dude. Like, it took a little while to get used to like how light to the little knobs to lock it. I mean, you just got to crack that thing open and it's just smooth.
Well, also the other thing that's kind of crazy is like, so when I had filmed for the youth hunt, and I didn't realize how smooth it was, and like, I wasn't shooting. Kaysen was, because it was youth, and he shoots, and I'm like, I kind of like jerked because it like kind of like, just kind of like, startled me a little bit, and I yanked it out of frame, dude, quickly. Like, I didn't even realize it moved so fast. And then I was self-filming the one I killed myself opening day, and I'm trying to like glide it across, and I went too far because it was so smooth. You're so used to like rigid shit. So definitely go and check those guys out. Fourth Arrow Camera Arms. Nor'easter Game Calls, nor'eastergamecalls.com. Get them in close, guys. All of your game call needs. Some really cool stuff coming out for deer season and stuff like that. So make sure to get on over and get your grunt tubes now. Latitude Outdoors, latitudeoutdoors.com. Guys, they're running a sale right now on the Rebel, still until supplies last. I think it's what, Stevie, 20% off?
20% off the Rebel.
Off the Rebel. I'm a huge fan of it, especially if you're a newer saddle hunter. If you're a stander, like you're used to being in a regular platform, perfect. Probably one of the biggest per square footage.
It's best in class for space to weight ratio.
Perfect. So go and check that.
7 pounds.
Go and check that out. Latitudeoutdoors.com. And last but not least, Saddies. Saddies Fatties. Go and check those guys out. The Saddies are flying, the turkeys are dying. So
and coyotes.
And coyotes. We do kill coyotes with them. But yeah, go and check those guys out. We appreciate you guys. Make sure to follow along on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all your major platforms. Give us a 5-star review if you're listening on Apple. And let's get on with the show, Stevie. All right, guys. Welcome back to the Outdoor Drive. We are live again. For you guys that are missing out, we are live on all social media platforms. And we are joined with Steve from Forever Wild Outdoors, Adrenailne Adventures TV. Good buddy.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
I know, isn't it, man? Like, you have to.
That's a mouthful.
Did you pick like the longest name possible when you were doing this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I came up originally. It was Forever Wild Outdoors, and it was Forever Wild Outdoors Art. To be honest with you. In 1996, when I started the company, it was by accident. I was in a car accident and broke my back in 2 places. And I always had a love of art. And one of the things that my father, God rest his soul, that was one of the big things I inherited from him. And when I was in high school, I was due to get a scholarship to go on an art scholarship. And, I have a science background, a biology background, and I majored in biology and art, and which are 2 diametrically opposed things, science and then art. But I always loved art, and I always had the love of the outdoors and the wild. So when I was laid up and I was all braced up and they wanted to put a halo on me, which I was having no part of that. I didn't want anything screwed into my skull. They told me I was never going to walk again. And the likelihood I was never going to walk again the probability was very high. And as a Marine, that's something that I was never going to let happen. So I was in a year on my back, and my father made a jig for me. so I could work upside down. And while I was upside down, flat on my back, he got me a very expensive German wood burning kit, which I still have to this day. And I just started wood burning just to pass the time. My days and my nights were all screwed up, and I was on so many different pain meds that it's my sleep schedule was just shot. And I was turning out on pieces of basswood and pine and whatever soft wood I could work on. And I started turning out dozens and dozens and dozens of pieces of artwork. And some friends would stop over and visit, and they're like, "Oh man, these things are beautiful. Can I buy one off you?" I'm like, just take it. And my wife at the time started seeing this, and she's like, you could probably do something with that with money. And ultimately, it turned into Forever Wild Outdoor Art. And I was, selling stuff at festivals and craft shows and whatnot, and I would sell out of it. And then that kind of morphed into custom work where people would have me do dining room and living room matching sets, where I would burn a raw pine table before it was finished, and coffee table and end tables, and I would do one continuous wildlife scene that would go over the span of all the pieces. So if you put them all together, it would be one big piece. And eventually did the doors to a winery here in New York, which I'll never do again because the doors were like 15 feet tall. And, I'm using a little wood burning tool. So I ended up using a cutting torch, which I'll never do again because I lit that door on fire like 12 times. I was good with a wood burning tool, but I was not real good with a torch, and especially a cutting torch because you have to adjust it just right. And but I did. They wanted a big on one door. They wanted a great big whitetail buck, and then a doe on the other one with their vineyard in the background. So and then the mountains behind it. So that's what I ended up doing. And that I got paid an awful lot of money for. But then that turned into my other love of hunting, because now I'm back walking again, even though I was on, a walker for a period of time, and I slowly started walking on a cane and going through therapy and whatnot. Got to the point where I could walk again. I had some friends invited me to a turkey calling competition, and it just so happened to be the New York State championships, turkey calling championships. And all my friends were like, "Oh man, you could do this, no problem. You've been killing turkeys since you were 12 years old. You've been calling in birds for people since you were 10. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea. I could do that. So I did. I waited till the next year, and I went into my first calling competition. I'm still doing the wildlife art, and I'm selling it. And I went into a calling competition, and I knew how to call in turkeys for people and kill them and whatnot. But I was not aware of the calling stage presence and the compulsory calls, all the different compulsory calls. There's 28 different calls. And they created a new subcategory of loser for me in that first competition. I mean, I came in, I think I scored, I did set a record. I think I scored the lowest score possible by a competitive caller at that time. And that kicked in my competitive nature, and I got right into wanting to learn more and learn more and learn more. And then I got taken under the wing by Dave Tilburg from Tilburg Outdoor Products, or Top Calls, and the great Paul Butsky. I got to become friends with the legends, in the outdoors, and called against them. And these guys took me under their wings, and they taught me a lot. Damon Davis, Dave Tilburg, Pat Strasser. I learned so much from these guys back in the day. And long story short, I started getting better and better and better. And Dave Tilburg at one point had asked me, hey, why don't you sell calls for me? And then, went into design and designing some of the calls. And when he sold the company, a lot of the calls that I designed are still being used today, which I'm pretty proud of. The Purr Pot was one of my favorite ones. And then I was wood burning a lot of the box calls. And one of my box calls is in, oh gosh, I can't remember the guy's name. Got turkey calls from every turkey call manufacturer in every state and then hunted every state with them. I can't remember his name, and I'm ashamed that I don't remember. But my call is in his book because he called in and killed a bird in New York State with that. And it was a cedar box call, and I still have the pictures of that box call, the lid I did. And now that pyrography, as it's referred to, there's a lot of people that do it today. Like there's a woman, I want to say she's out of the Midwest. She is amazing at doing this. Like right now, I mean, I still do it for friends. Like if they ask me to do their shotguns, I do their shotgun stocks, and I did a lot of those. Dave Constantine, another one of the greatest of all time doing that. And then there's a whole bunch of great people that do it. But, with that wildlife art and then turkey calling and then working with Tilburg game calls, I wasn't happy, doing the design and the manufacturing and then the sales and marketing. I wanted to branch out on my own. So I did. And I started making duck calls, goose calls, coyote calls, elk, turkey calls, crow, the whole 9 yards. And then started working for a video production company. They were looking for basically a grunt. And this is back in the day when I had the great big shoulder-mounted Sonys with the bandolier batteries that weighed 12 pounds apiece. And you pray to God it didn't rain so you didn't short-circuit yourself. And you did. You get electrocuted because you had these bandoliers and the batteries, were about 8 to 10 pounds each, and they were just strung across your body. And, there was like 14 batteries on each bandolier, and then they were all plugged in together. So when one battery died, it went to the next one and the next one and the next one and so on. And they didn't last very long. And, we were shooting Betamax back then. Those cameras were heavy, and I was not a big guy. Back then I maybe weighed 150 pounds, maybe. And, I'm carrying around a, 45-pound camera with all this crap on it, plus all my other gear and a solid steel tripod, and then had to do the literal cut, tape, do the crossfades all manually, on linear material, not like going on a computer now on a program and be able to do it right on a computer digitally, which is so much easier. But yeah, it was back in the day, and I did that, and they let me use their camera gear and their editing equipment to start putting together old videos to help support the sales of the calls I was making. So I would have, I had 17 different stores in 3 different states, and they let me have a little end cap, and I bought those TV VCR all-in-one deals. You guys remember that? Mm-hmm. It was like a little, I don't know, 13, 15-inch TV, and it had the VCR built right into it. And we just put it on a loop, and that would help promote the sales of my calls. And I really, really, really started enjoying videoing more and more and more. And I was doing a lot of work for a lot of different television shows, doing B-roll footage and selling it, a lot of work with TNN. Back in the day when Matt used to do stuff with TNN, when Matt Weddish used to do it, and Matt and I used to call against each other, and I used to call against Randy too.
The 3 amigos running across the country calling at each other.
Oh yeah, a hot mess. But that kind of brings you to the 90s, in the heyday of video and whatnot. And then in 90, 98, I started Forever Wild Outdoor video production. So it went from Forever Wild Outdoor Art to Forever Wild Outdoor Art and Game Calls to Forever Wild Outdoor Art, Game Calls, and Video Productions. Wow. And then it just went into Video Productions and Game Calls. And then the final morph was Video Productions. And then the company, the final name of the company is Forever Wild Outdoors Video Productions, LLC. And that's what it is now. And then the name of the show is Forever Wild Outdoors Adrenailne Adventures. And then I get a call, I want to say it was 1999, maybe 2000, somewhere around in there. I got a call from Realtree. And Realtree asked me to film a couple of their pro staff guys on a turkey hunt. And would I mind calling for them? And I did. And that's where I met Jerry. And the other guy is another TV host, Tim Andrus. And we're all very good friends, and we all had a great time. And they wanted Jerry to learn how to be a competitive turkey caller for Team Realtree. So I started teaching him, and then Jerry and I, we became the best of friends. So it was the end of 98. I remember that. It was the May of 98 or 99, because my daughter Savannah was just little over just under a year old at that point. And Jerry and I have been best friends ever since. And I want to say 2003, he became a partner in Forever Wild Outdoors, and we started pushing to develop a television show. And we did. And then we farmed it around. We did local stuff, and everybody was trying to take advantage of us. And back then we were willing to do anything, but we had so many doors shut in our face. I mean, like every place we went, it was no. But we put the time in it. And I remember the conversation Jerry and I had, which was part of the business model is I don't want to owe anybody anything. I don't want to borrow any money from banks. I don't want anybody to have any stake in what we have. If we need it, we buy it. We don't get a loan for it. If we have to save for it, we save for it, right? So that's what we ended up doing. And to this day, we own everything. We owe nobody anything. And
that's a hard thing to do in this world, man. Like, especially trying to grow a business like that, right? Like, that's not a simple task. Like, because you try to go, and I could only imagine, like there's probably those horror stories, like we talk about it a lot, where like sometimes it's super tough because you get kind of like upset about it because you're like, I don't know, like why, sometimes you have that mode like, why am I doing this? I'm going so hard, and then you just have that failure and you're just like, why, like, but you're chasing that dream, and what you want, it's not easy.
Oh yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. I mean, I can't tell you how many times you get this, you're just sitting there and you're wrinkling your face up all the time and you're just trying to wipe the stress off your face. Yeah. But yeah, when Jerry came on, I'm still competitive calling. He's competitive calling. And I ended up being a 5-time New York State turkey calling champion.
Wow.
And then I ended up, I started competing in all the majors. I did the Battle of the Ohio, won that one year, which is one of the majors. I took third place in the Masters. I was in the top 11 in the Grand Nationals and the Worlds. And, I've competed against everybody. And to me, turkey calling is I've made some of the best friends in the outdoor industry in turkey calling. And it's amazing how big people think the outdoor industry is, but how really small and intimate it truly is.
At Midway USA, we know the AR-15 is one of the most popular rifles in modern American history. Known for its modularity and widespread use, it's often considered essential to any gun collection. The essential things you need to run an AR-15 are usually always in stock during shortages, things like magazines and 5.56 ammo. Whether you're looking to buy a new AR-15 or buy parts for your modern sporting rifle, Log on, and for just about everything for the outdoors, shop MidwayUSA.com. Hunting boots are a critical component of any successful hunt. Whether walking a short distance to your blind or trudging miles through rugged terrain, your feet are carrying the load. Without the right boots, you could give up early and lose out on that trophy just over the ridge. At Midway USA, we make selecting boots for your next hunt easier. With just a few clicks of a mouse, you can decide on what's important, like waterproofing, insulation, size, width, and savings. For just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors, check out MidwayUSA.com.
You were going to say something?
Yeah, I was, honestly, because, like, is it, going back on it, obviously, like, you're a killer at heart, right? And you're killing turkeys, and you're bringing guys out, and you're killing all the time, and then you decide to get on this stage and become a turkey caller, right? And you get spanked up and down. Like, what is the big difference between being a turkey killer and being a good competition turkey caller?
Oh, that's a great question. So, like, Jerry and I, we do seminars, right? And
Right.
A lot of the seminars we do is on, one of my fortes is turkey calling and turkey hunting. So to answer your question, it might be a couple parts. So we have a lot of people that will come up and say, man, I wish I could call as good as you. And I've, when we were at the Connecticut show, a lot of people came up to Matt and said, man, I would love to be able to call as good as you. My simple answer to that is, do you kill turkeys? And they're like, yeah. And then I'm like, well, you're every bit as good as I am then. Bottom line, right? Because the nuance of me calling on stage or Matt calling on stage, we're calling to a judge, right?
Right.
And that judge is going to score us based on what he hears. The real judge is out in the woods. And if you can call and you can reverse turkey biology, right? Which is in the wild, the hen goes to the gobbler. Okay, so that's the first hurdle. Second hurdle is you are trying to sound like the female of another species. That's hurdle number 2. Now, hurdle number 3 is you are now trying to trick the male of that species to think you are a sexier female of that species than the real female of that species, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can do that and you can consistently kill a turkey, and I don't care if it's a Jake or if it's, a 12-inch longbeard, I don't care. If you can consistently do that, you're every bit as good as any caller that calls on the competitive stage, in my opinion.
Right.
Okay. So that's, one component. The other component is when you're calling on stage and they're giving you the compulsory calls, it's a subtle nuance because there's little things that that a turkey will do that you now have to mimic, and you now have to fool a sentient being that has reasoning and can break things down. Okay. And then you have to do it against all these other guys that are doing the same thing. And back in the day, your calling field would be wide open. You would have a ton of people calling on, you competing against. And then it was so big that they would have preliminaries. And then if you made the cut, then you were in the finals. And that used to be everywhere because turkey calling used to be so popular back in the day. And then they started changing a lot of rules and whatnot. And I used to be super big in the NWTF, and for New York State on the state chapter, I was on the board, and I did the Jakes program, and I headed up the Jakes for the state program and whatnot. But when calling to a turkey out in the woods, I kind of mix what I know from turkey biology and what I hear listening to turkeys, and that's your best teacher. You can listen to turkey callers on stage, and you could put 30 guys up on stage right now. And if you didn't know who they were and you haven't spent a lot of time around them, I dare you to pick out one caller from the next, because like a lot of the television shows, they're very cookie cutter. They sound almost identical, right? And turkeys aren't like that. They're all individual. Okay. I mean, there was big name guys that I beat on stage, and some of them on the national stage, and they were like, there's no way you beat me. And I'm like, well, apparently I did,
Right.
and to me, I'm very critical about my calling, and I still kill birds. I don't compete anymore. And one of my favorite things, actually, it's Jerry's favorite thing, is when a lot of the competitors will come up to me and we're at a show and there's a calling competition going on. And they'll come up and they're like, hey, man, you calling? I'm like, no. I'm like, what, are you scared? No, I'm not.
We got over that factor a long time ago.
A long time ago. And I retired from it, and it's time that torch gets passed. And I noticed the thing I love seeing a lot of the guys that I looked up to, that I competed against, and a lot of them I beat, and a lot of them beat me. But a lot of these guys that kind of went into retirement for a while are now coming back. And not only are they coming back, they're kicking ass on stage. Steve Stoltz is one of them. And that guy's always he's just been a straight up killer on turkeys. Then you got the Drurys and Sean Grant is another one. I mean, that guy was amazing. Chris Kirby, if Chris Kirby went on stage right now, he'd probably wipe the floor with everybody, but I'm watching a lot of these guys starting to come back, and a lot of the guys that didn't leave, like Pat Strasser, they're just crushing people. Matt Van Sice, he is the winningest caller in history, and by rights, the guy's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. I mean, I watched that guy and he poops feathers, but he can take what he does on stage and he takes it out in the woods, and it's the same thing. Why? Because he sits there and he watches turkeys all the time. And he listens to them. And that's what I was doing too. I started listening to turkeys. I would go out and film wild turkeys and I would listen to them for hours. I got away from mimicking callers and started mimicking hens. And that's where I had that crossover between being a woods caller and a stage caller. Okay. So that killer caller thing, I joined them. And, I still catch myself sometimes where I start to blow out a call because I'm trying to reach out there with a mouth call. And I'm like, why am I doing that? Pick up a glass call, pick up a crystal call, pick up a box call. There's no reason to blow out a call. I'm not on stage. I'm no one to impress but that gobbler. That's what I'm trying to pull in, is that gobbler.
And the thing is that gobbler can hear you from a mile away anyways, no matter where you are.
He knows where I am within a foot of where I'm standing. And that's, on a calm day. On a windy day, a little bit different.
Right.
And then, there's a lot of other variables with that too, which is how much foliage is out there. Where you guys are in Connecticut and when we all hunted in Vermont, it's all mountainous terrain. And there could be birds gobbling way up on the mountain. You guys will hear it. Old guys like me and Jerry, we struggle to hear that stuff now. And going up after, I'm just not that mad at turkeys that I need to go traveling a mile up a mountain to go chase a turkey. I've killed enough birds in my time that I'm just not that mad at them anymore.
It's crazy. One of the things about hunting, like the eastern turkey in the mountainous region, like even like our season just opened yesterday, and we were hunting a big hillside with my father early morning, and the calls echo back off of the hillsides.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's crazy because like, you're like, oh, that thing is, it's a little farther away than you think. And then it's right there because he's shooting his gobble right into the hill. And then he comes up on top of it and then he's right on top of you. And you're like, uh-oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the negatives. Oh, yeah. And it's
sure
kind of crazy.
Sure it is. One thing I love is I love taking out new people out turkey hunting. That's probably my favorite thing, taking the kids out. We've been doing that with since the inception of the New York State youth season, like 19 or 20 years ago. And probably 19 years ago. And we've this year was the first year that our kids didn't kill birds. And it's not for a lack of trying and not for a lack of birds. They were covered up in them. But one of the groups of toms that were coming in, a coyote came in and busted them. And then they had another bird that swung wide on them and came up behind them and skylighted them. But everybody had a good time. But one of the things that they were talking about was the dad of the young man that Jerry and our other partner, Steve Byers, took out while I was down in South Carolina. They said that here's a guy that liked turkey hunting, but he was so novice at it that when you'd hear a turkey gobble 300 or 400 yards away, Steve and Jerry, they've been doing it a long time, and they're just like, yeah, he's over there. He's probably in a strut zone. And the guy's going, no, man, he's coming. And they're like, no. And the guy's getting all amped up. His breathing's changing. I love that. I miss that. I remember taking my kids out, and they would get like that. And then they started learning. It's just like patience, and you have to know when to be patient. You have to know when to be aggressive on a bird. And like you said, when you're calling and all of a sudden that call is coming, kicking back on you, like, what do you do? And then it's like, do you sit down right there and you start looking around? What do you do? But those are all things that you learn. And after 43 years in 33 states of killing turkeys, I've learned a thing or two, based on the different species of bird. And the only bird that I haven't killed in the United States is the Osceola. That's the only one I haven't killed.
Really?
And that's the next one I'm going to kill. And my goal is to get a single season slam and then go for a Royal and then a Worlds in a single season. Wow. That I'd like to do, go to Mexico, get the Goulds, go to the Yucatan, get the ocellated, go get a Rio, Miriam's, and then get an Eastern and an Osceola and be done with it.
That would be incredible. Do people actually do the Worlds in one single season?
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's not easy.
And
it's not cheap.
You're almost to your 49 anyways. That's the big thing now too, is chasing the 49, shooting all 49 states. Yeah.
I you know what? I have no interest in that.
I
really don't.
What's the last ones that you haven't hunted in?
Oh, the states?
Yeah.
I haven't hunted California, Idaho, Utah, Nevada, Arizona,
those are all
New Mexico for turkeys.
They're all hard states to turkey hunt. Those are horrible states to turkey hunt.
Right, but you can hunt them,
Right.
But I've hunted the Dakotas. I haven't hunted Nebraska.
What do you think your favorite is?
Favorite turkey to hunt?
No, favorite place to turkey hunt.
Ooh, jeepers. Kansas is one.
That's what everyone says.
For Rios. I killed a big Rio there with a center point crossbow during COVID.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I love South Carolina, South Carolina mountains, and where I just was in Campobello, and I love it. I love it there just because it's beautiful, it's warm, and the turkey hunting is actually really, really good when it's on. But if you go a little bit further down in South Carolina, even North Carolina, I love hunting North and South Carolina. Dakota is awesome, especially for Miriam's. You go to South Dakota. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. And, you can get into spots where you're hearing 50, 60 birds gobble, but it's a different gobble, it's a real odd gobble. To anybody that's used to hunting Easterns, it's an odd gobble.
Why is that?
Well, you know how like an Eastern gobble just is very throaty and and you can feel it in your chest when he comes in. That's like the leaves
Mm-hmm.
rattle. Out there, not so much. It's a soft gobble. It's a very different gobble. I mean, it's still a gobble, but it's not as hearty and deep and throaty as an Eastern is. I mean, I've been down in Florida and I've called the Osceolas, but never during the hunting season. One of my daughters lives down there. So, there's Osceolas all over near where she lives, and makes me sick because I have a place to stay and, I could knock that one out, but, they have a deep gobble. Rios have a pretty hefty gobble, but it's kind of like a mix between an Eastern and a Miriam's, but nothing to me, nothing beats a good Eastern gobble. I will say that I loved hunting Vermont.
Really?
Loved it. That was my first time, because we did Connecticut, we did Vermont. Loved both of them.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to choose one over the other, I would probably choose Vermont.
They say, I mean, I know here anyways, but when you get into the Easterns and the hardwoods here, for some reason, it's a different type of gobble that will literally rattle your cage. I don't know what it is. It's insane.
That's what I'm talking about. When you get an Eastern, that gobble, that it'll shake the ground. You could feel it vibrating in your chest, and it makes you breathe different. Your adrenaline just starts cranking when that comes in, and that's why the show is Adrenaline Adventures. It's a relatable thing. Everyone can kind of relate to that.
Especially killing turkeys. I mean, the adrenaline, talk about one thing, but killing anything, the adrenaline and getting going and stuff like that. Like it's just incredible. It's undescribable, honestly. Truly undescribable.
You're right. And I always hear that adage. It's like, oh, when I lose that feeling, I'm done hunting. Right. And, I've got 43 years under me, hunting and 50 years shooting a bow. Here's the weird thing. I mean, when I was younger, I had buck fever so bad. I mean, it was bad. Like my dad used to have to hold me because I would just shake so violently. And then as I got older and I hunted more species of animal and more species of big game, I don't get the shakes at all. I don't get it at all until I walk up on the animal, and then I'll start shaking.
When you walk up on it. See, I'm similar in that, but it's after I take a shot. After I shoot something, I lose it in the tree stand. At first, calm, cool, collected, you have that killer instinct, and then after that, forget it. It's over, right? Like it just loses.
Yeah, I mean it's super weird, and it's funny. I mean I don't want to sound like I'm a serial killer or anything, but I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit. If I have to sit there and watch the animal a long, long time, one of two things is going to happen. Either I'm coming unglued, especially if it's a giant, whatever, or I get over it quick and now I'm laser focused, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had my wife's constitution. She's a stone cold killer, and I am the luckiest man on the planet to have a wife that loves to hunt. And we butcher the deer together. We process it all. You enjoyed our sausage that we made.
Yes, we did, for sure, all weekend.
Yeah. But she has not experienced buck fever yet. She doesn't know. She can't relate. Because, I'm like, are you a serial killer? Do I have to worry about you when I'm sleeping? Because she doesn't get nervous. She doesn't get the shakes. She's so hyper focused on it. And she loves it. Don't get me wrong. And this year she killed her first big buck, that big white 7-pointer we showed you pictures of.
Yep.
And it's a gorgeous buck. And that was her first big buck. She reacted differently. She got emotional about it. And now that I can relate to, because it's an accomplishment. But she's one of those rare women that if something steps out in front of her 350 yards, it's dead. I mean, it's dead. She's that good with a rifle. And, she's shoots a bow well, but she just hasn't had the opportunity of shooting a bow. And she always boasts to people that she learned from the best, because when we go shooting, she outshoots more than half the men consistently. Outshoots them. And she goes, well, I learned from the best. I'm like, oh, were you a competition shooter? And I'm like, I wasn't really a competition shooter, but I was a factory shooter back in the day for Oneida Eagle. Many, 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 many years ago when Oneida Eagle first came out. And Steve asked earlier, was talking to me and asked me a question about, given my age, which I'm going to keep to myself, but but it was somewhere in the 60s, that, the question came up, as I get older, what do I have my mod set at? Am I, what am I shooting in poundage? And my response is depends on which bow I've got. Expedition Archery is one of our big sponsors, and I love, of all the bows I've owned, and I've owned them all, Expedition's probably my favorite bow I've ever shot. I had a Hoyt that I loved, and I shot it for years, and Bear sent me a bow years ago, which one of my sons has right now, and I love that bow. So there's few bows that you can pick up. You know what I mean? You pick it up, and every time you draw it back, it's so comfortable, and you just feel so confident. There's just a level of confidence when you draw it back, you anchor it, and when you release that trigger on the release, you're confident whatever you're aiming at is dead, or you're hitting your mark. And I'm that way with my Expedition. So I've got one of my bows set up to 72 and one set up to 62. And I think Steve said, he goes, oh, geez, I don't want to get to that point where I start shooting a 62-pound bow. And one thing I learned as you get older, but let me back it up. When you're younger, one of the things that we get locked into is ego and status. You know what I mean? Which is, it's just like it's a masculine thing. We got to outdo the next guy. Oh, well, you're pulling 60 pounds. Well, I'm pulling 70 pounds. It's like, who cares?
Who cares?
First off, Ted Nugent.
Go ahead.
Ted Nugent's shooting, 45 to 50 pounds, and he's killing bison with it. It's just, he knows where to hit an animal. And the older you get, you start to struggle and strain, and the cold affects you differently. You don't recover the same as you did when you were in your 20s, your 30s, even your early 40s. Your recovery time gets less and less and less the older you get. And the older I get, the less I care about an ego. So if I have to sit there and get down to 55 pounds, guess what? If I can draw that bow back nice and smooth, and I can hold it, and I can, shoot that, 500 grain arrow and hit my mark every time and have the same lethality as anybody that shoots a 70-pound bow. And I'm still shooting FPS wise, just the same, but I have better downrange kinetic energy. That's all I care about. I will say this. Do you know what speed does?
Speed kills?
Speed makes you miss quicker.
Oh, I like that.
That's a fact.
Right.
Speed will always make you miss quicker. And the faster your bow is, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be louder than my bow.
This upcoming concert season will be all about the boots, and Tecovas is your stop for the best in Western style. Tecovas has seasonal and limited edition offerings this spring and summer, including men's and women's boots, apparel, hats, bags, and more. All Tecovas boots are made by hand in a time-honored tradition with timeless styles that are always on trend. And Tecovas has first wear comfort with little to no break-in period. It's hard to find this level of comfort paired with this level of style. Stop by your local Tecovas store, have a complimentary drink or two, that's WCB style, and shop new styles. The smell of fresh leather and friendly staff are at your service. Many stores even have leather custom branding to make your boots truly personalized. And with regular live music and events, there's no in-store experience like it. If you can't make it into a store, just visit tecovas.com. That's TECOVAS.com. They offer free shipping on all boots, as well as free returns and exchanges, and ship right to your door. Go to tecovas.com and find your new favorite pair of boots today.
Knives, machetes, saws, and shears, multi-tools, shovels, swords, axes, spears, hatchets, and tomahawks. If it cuts, snips, slices, or chops, Midway USA has it. Find great gift ideas in our huge selection of pocket knives and other everyday carry folding knives. Make a statement or create a family legacy with one of our top-of-the-line hunting knives. We've got a great selection of manual and electric sharpeners, too. For just about everything for the outdoors, check out MidwayUSA.com.
Fishing like a local isn't just about catching fish. It's about connecting with the environment and the people who call it home. It's about hearing the stories and traditions that have been passed down for generations and sharing unforgettable moments with the people you meet along the way. Fishing like a local is having an experience that stays with you forever. And with Fishing Booker, you can experience it too, no matter where you are. Discover your next adventure on Fishing Booker.
That has more to do with arrow weight, though.
Nope, not necessarily true. It's going to absorb some energy. There's no question about it. Okay? I've always found, in my experience, that the faster the bow, there's more things that are hitting harder. That's a fact. When you're drawn back and you release that and it goes wham, and you got to look at the decibels in a relative term, right? All bows, the bows today are quieter than the bows 20 years ago. That's a fact.
Right.
You're still going to be louder the higher poundages because there's more energy stored in those limbs. It's going to make noise. It's going to make noise. Is the arrow going to absorb some? Yes, it's going to absorb a little. That's not the arrow's. The arrow's not designed to absorb the sound and all the energy. It's going to take a bunch of it for sure. But you've got your stabilizers, you've got all kinds of stuff that are mixed in there. And I'm not saying that it's going to sound like a 410 shotgun going off, but comparatively, when I shoot my 72-pound expedition, which is freaking quiet, and I put it against a 62-pound expedition, the 62-pound is a whisper compared to the other one. And the other one's scary quiet. There is a difference, and if you shoot long enough and you shoot different bows long enough, you will know the difference that, yep, this one's louder than this one, even though it's a little bit, it's louder.
Yeah.
I've had more deer jump a higher poundage bow, jump the string on a higher poundage bow than my lower poundage bow.
Really?
Yep.
That's crazy.
Now that's me.
Right.
That's me, but I've also got it on film.
Right.
I was hunting with my my MX-32, which is probably one of my all-time favorite bows. I freaking love that bow, and I've got the MX-16. That's the one set to 72 pounds. But I shot a coyote this October. I shot a coyote at 43, 44 yards. And I had 8 or 9 coyotes around me, and some of them were right underneath me, but I couldn't get a clear shot. And this one coyote was straight out in front of me. And that many ears, and you hear that bow go off. And I had my Tacticam was mounted, and it's a whisper. And that dog had no idea what happened till the arrow was already in him. And then he just started pinwheeling around with the lighted knock right at dusk, which is a pretty cool sight to see on film.
That's pretty crazy, though. I mean, 43 yards. I mean, that's a poke, and especially of all animals, a coyote, right? Like, I mean, they're pretty sly, and their ears are spot on. So that's
and to have that many dogs. I mean, there was 8 or 9 dogs around me, and to the point where I normally don't ever really get nervous. I've only been scared in the woods once, and that was up in Canada. Legitimately scared.
What happened?
Crap your pants scared. Tree stand broke, and I was kind of dangling there, and I had a 200-pound wolf about 17 yards growling at me, and I was halfway down the ladder on a 20-foot ladder stand, and I'm dangling. So I've got my arm kind of wrapped around. I've got 60-pound backpack on with all the camera gear, tree arm, all the batteries, all my all-day gear. My bow is on the ground, and I'm trying to reach for a machete, and I've got a radio. I can hear the boat on the lake, and the lake is 26 miles long. And up there's no noise distortion, so I can hear it, but I have no clue how far it is away. All I know is that I am the last pickup of the night, and typically they don't pick me up until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And here I am, and I've got this wolf in front of me, and he's growling. I can hear another one on the hillside running around me, but that one I can't see because it's all cedars up there, and you got dense pine. It's kind of like being in Maine. When the sun goes down up there, it's jet black. And if you step into that bush up there, it's easy to get lost. And, I took my machete out and I'm banging on the metal, and it just seemed to upset him more. He never really got any closer. He just sat there growling at me. And I'm radioing to the boat. I don't know who's got the boat. I don't know if it's Adam. I don't know if it's Tom. Please tell me one of you guys have the gun. This is what happened. The tree stand broke. I'm dangling, and there's a wolf right in front of me. What seemed like forever was probably 2 minutes that I was there. And then I heard the boat hit the beach. And when it did that, I looked over my right shoulder because I could kind of see through the cedars, and I could see the boat hit. And I looked back, and it was like a ghost. That wolf was gone, and the other one was gone. Like in literally the snap of a finger. I dropped 10 feet to the ground. I fell on my back. It's the funniest damn thing. Picturing it in my head right now. I grabbed the rope with my machete, cut it, grabbed my bow, and I'm running. And it was cold, so I'm all bundled up. Everyone on the boat's laughing their asses off at me because I look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, Snow White. Because I think I crapped my pants like 20 minutes earlier. And I'm running to the boat, and I'm all out like this. My arms are all out, and I'm screaming. I'm like, go, go, go. And I'm feeling like in my head, every horror movie I have ever seen in my life was coming to life. And I'm like, I've got wolves behind me running, snapping their teeth. They weren't, they were gone. But in my head, I was about to die. And I dove into that boat. And it wasn't one of those real classic, cool looking dives that made you look good, because I kind of hit the edge of the boat and got dead stopped midway through the dive. So I kind of hit like right below my belly, and I was like, "Whoa!" And everybody was pissing themselves laughing at me. So I didn't hear the end of it for the rest of that hunt. But that was the scariest I ever was. But that particular night with the coyotes, I had to radio Jeff and Jerry and say, "Hey man, hate to bother you guys, but these coyotes aren't leaving, and they're now going around in circles around the tree stand, and I have 3 arrows left. I only brought 4 arrows out with me, and I just launched one into one of their siblings. So they had to come out on 4-wheelers and scare the rest of the coyotes out. I was very uncomfortable on that. And coyotes usually don't make me nervous, but they made me nervous that night, I'll tell you.
I'll tell you, they're starting to get worse. I had a buddy last year that was coming out deer hunting, and they like kind of surrounded him. He could hear him in the woods, kind of like circling around him, and he ended up like shooting into the air kind of, because he was like getting super nervous with them like growling and like crazy, like trying to like trail him, follow him. And that's not like a coyote, but they're getting a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, there's levels of, they're getting bold, and a lot of that has to do with the encroachment of people into their habitat and the loss of their habitat. And we're starting to see evolution kind of happen right before our eyes because, we're getting more and more sightings, especially around here, of coyotes of different color. You have your standard red, salt, pepper, standard coyote. Then we've got like the one I shot, which was all white and blonde. Then there's all white, and then we've got grays, we've got black, we've got black, gray, and white. And that's the evolutionary process because they're trying to figure out where and how do they want to live, because you've got rural, semi-rural, urban, and suburban, right? So they're trying to morph into all of that, and they're trying to figure out what they want to do. And because of that, they're having more interaction with people, and they're starting to associate people with food, just by virtue of bird feeders, suet blocks, mulch piles, compost piles, coyotes being omnivores, and opportunistic feeders. If they can start to associate people with food, and then anytime they see a human, they're not feeding them, well, then they get bold. They can come up and approach them. And if there's fear in that person and there's numbers in the coyotes, well, then, of course, what are they going to do? They're going to try to bully them. And then once the next step from that is aggression. And then they lose that natural fear of humans. And then, you got to put the smack down on them, and, you got to shoot a bunch of them in the face to kind of instill that natural fear of people back into them, and then they disperse them. We had that problem here where we had to go out and we shot 11 coyotes. We had a pack of like 25, 30, which is, again, very uncommon because they usually just stick around in family groups. And, we had to shoot 11 of them and disperse the pack. And every single one of those animals had mange, and they were very malnourished because it was a dry season. And, a lot of different factors can cause that, but it was a big dry season, so there wasn't a lot of food for them. And, they started going in and eating cats and, puppies and whatever else they could get a hold of. And, they started to become very aggressive and bold. And that's probably what your buddy was experiencing.
It's crazy. Steve actually shot one yesterday while turkey hunting, actually. he had one.
Boy, Steve.
He had one coming in. What happened with that, Steve? Oh, he must have been dropped off.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm like,
I was just taking a little turkey nap.
Oh.
No, I called in a pile of jakes, and I wasn't going to shoot them. I was just calling them in and just laying down footage of them gobbling and stuff. And a bunch of them went one way and some went the other way, and they were out of sight. They went over the hill, and all of a sudden they all started putting and flew up in the trees. And I 100% wasn't because of me, because they couldn't even see me at the time. And the next thing you know, a coyote came running out in front of me, chasing the other three that were, still in view. So, like I said, I wasn't going to shoot a jake, but I'm not passing an opportunity on a coyote ever. So,
Yeah. See, now in Connecticut, do you guys have a season on coyotes, or is it open?
It's open. I don't remember when they changed it. There was a time not too long ago. I don't know if I had to guess, maybe 10 years, give or take. It was closed during turkey season. Now it's open all year.
Yeah.
So,
see, in New York, there is a season on coyotes. And our season is, I want to say it's October to March. The end of February, beginning of March. Yeah. And then you can't shoot them the rest of the year. until it opens up again in October. Now, down in South Carolina, where we just were, if you see a coyote, it goes from a turkey hunt to a coyote hunt real quick. But the cool thing about down there is if you see a hog, it goes from a turkey hunt to a hog hunt real quick.
Yeah. It's fun to try to do turkey distress on a diaphragm.
Yeah. You get in a group of hogs, that's not a turkey distress. That's just you being in distress with a turkey call in your mouth.
It's kind of like a turkey distress, right?
I wonder, how's that go? Shooting a hog with turkey shot.
You have to wait till they're on top of you, shoot them right in the face.
Yeah.
Straight on.
That's basically how my
right in the eye.
went.
I hope you got TSS loads.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because that's a valid argument when people, you got TSS naysayers out there. You don't need that shit. Well, when a coyote comes rolling in, you're pretty happy you have the TSS. I can tell you that.
You know what? I'll be honest with you. Last year was the first year I started using TSS, and that was because we had a sponsor, Salt Creek Ammunition, which is great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the 20 gauge and the 12 gauge, and they sent us 410 gauge too. They actually just came out with 28 gauge, but I've shot turkeys with fall load turkey loads. My Federal XRs, long range XRs, number 5s.
Oh yeah.
I've killed coyotes at 45 yards in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
TSS loads are great. I love TSS loads, but they're not necessary. It's just like somebody going out with a 10 gauge 3.5 inch Magnum, and they'll sit there and they'll go, "Oh, you can't kill anything with a 20 gauge or a 410." And I'm like, well, 10 gauge 3.5 inch Magnum, in my opinion, is a touch much. The last time I checked, turkeys weren't wearing Kevlar.
This is very true. True. Go ahead, Steve.
No. I was going to say sometimes it seems like they are wearing Kevlar, but
yeah, that's sometimes. I think I've had my share of rolling bird.
Exactly.
But I think I'm a little biased against 10 gauges.
Yeah, I like 10. I like the TSS just for the simple fact is like I no longer hunt with a 12 gauge. So I shot the XR Longbeard. It's great. It was the best available when it came out. It was game changing, right? I like the fact that I can go to TSS and then go down to a 20 gauge. So I'm effectively right back into that 12 gauge XR Longbeard ranges with
I see that.
Half the gun. Yeah, I'm hunting with a youth model 20 gauge, which is
They're
a joy
lighter.
to run around with. I did hunt 1 year with a 3-inch 12 gauge and TSS, and like you said, it was more gun than I needed. And after that, I decided to just go ahead and go with a smaller gun, go down to the 20 gauge, and it's kind of levels the playing field, if you will.
Sure. No, and I can see that. I agree with that. I mean, I hunt with both with TSS. The other thing about TSS is they're pricing themselves out. Most TSS loads, they're so expensive for 5 rounds. You're paying $80-$90 for 5 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's hunting, unfortunately, is morphed into a rich man's sport.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's morphing into. Mm-hmm. And that disgusts me. And that as somebody that's in the industry, and we've been on national television and international television now for 11 years. It really hurts my feelings, because for somebody to go out and to get a bow. I remember my first compound bow because I couldn't shoot. My dad wouldn't buy me a compound bow until I killed my first couple deer with a recurve bow, and that's what I did when I was very young. And legal to do so. And then my first bow was a Bear Black Mag. And I remember I saved up, and my dad said he would pay for half of it, but I had to get the other half. And my first black mag, my Bear black mag bow, I think it was $300, $325, something like that. My dad paid for half of it, and it took me all summer to mowing lawns and doing whatever I had to do to save up that money. And that was a top line bow, especially for a youth model bow. And my dad shot, garbage bows, and he would, buy something off of at a swap meet, somebody's old compound bow, and he'd buy it for $75. You can't do that nowadays, and again, this goes back to that status and ego thing, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, I've got to have this Matthews X whatever the newest thing is, at $2,500, or $2,000, the new Hoyt Alpha, vagina bow, I don't know, whatever the hell it is, and but these bows are like, I understand the technology is there, but my gosh, you're pricing the bow out of regular people's grasp. Mm-hmm. And at a time when we need to build more numbers and unify more, we're destroying ourselves, whether it's because we're pricing, out and people can't afford it, or we're infighting.
So one of the things that, and I'm in total agreement with you, Steve, honestly, and I think that it's tough because I think that the industry itself has morphed into the fact where that it is that rich man sport, and a lot of people are seeing and I all of us here are in the forefront of that, right? So like, you have a TV show, we have a podcast, people see us, we're sponsored by Bowtech, you're with Expedition, Fourth Arrow, like all of our sponsors, You have a bunch of sponsors, and, we wear matching camo because we have a camo company, you too, True Camo, right. You know what I'm saying? So like, everybody sees that stuff and they're like, oh, I have to go and get that. I have to go and do that. Well, no, you don't, because Steve, just like you, just like me, we had mismatch, Kmart camouflage, and we killed 15 deer. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what we started off with, and it's okay to have that. But now this whole image that the industry has thrown is that you have to have a flagship bow or a Benelli shotgun or this special camo, and you don't. You can go and do this in a very simplistic way, and you don't have to have all of this big top dollar flagship stuff. You can go and enjoy the sport for what it is every single day.
I agree, and I look at, we get a lot of hate because people, first off, they think that, oh, you guys, you've had everything handed to you. You guys don't know how to hunt. You guys can't hunt anywhere. Come to my state and hunt. You wouldn't be able to kill a deer. It's like, a lot of people forget. It's like, I started out hunting public land. And when I was traveling states when I was younger and I was in the Marine Corps, I was hunting on military bases and I was hunting public land in different states. So yeah, I can, and I have,
and I will.
And I will, and I continue to do so. And am I at the point where it's like, yes, I can go to an outfitter and I can, get with a guide and do stuff like that? Of course I can. And I have. I've done it all over. Mm-hmm. So is Jerry. And Jerry's, oh my God, Jerry's hunted all over the world, and and he's hunted public land. When we go out west, when he was younger and he went out west. Everything we did was, okay, well, we'll sleep in the car and we'll go out and hunt here. And now, like, one of my favorite YouTube shows is The Hunting Public. Mm-hmm. And I love watching those guys because it reminds me a lot of when we were younger, we would do stuff like that. And I watch how much fun they're having. And, and those guys were all on network shows, and they were like, you know what, screw this, we're going to go do our own thing. And they did their own thing. And now they're building up their sponsor base and so on and so forth. And talking about sponsors, because guys are like, oh, all that stuff's garbage. It's like, well, there are tools. That's the way I see it. And that's the way I tell people, like with camouflage, like True Timber Camouflage, and you guys have Huntwise or Huntworth.
Huntworth, yeah.
And Huntworth, excuse me.
That's all right.
And they're tools. And just like any tool, if you use it improperly, it's not going to do you any good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not going to do you a damn bit of good. And with a bow, Expedition, Bowtech, my bow's 3 years old already. My newest bow, it's 3 years old. I'm not worried about it. I love that bow. I shoot well with that bow. And if every year we try to the people on our team that don't have bows, it's like, okay, well, we'll give the new people their bows and do whatever. Scent companies. I mean, what you were talking about. My dad, back in the early 80s, mid 80s, he went out in slacks and a flannel shirt and killed deer. And that's how I started hunting. And then because I can remember, the woodland camo, the old Vietnam fatigue. And then I had tiger stripe that my uncle, who was in Vietnam, my dad's buddy that we used called my uncle, was in Vietnam. We had tiger stripes camouflage. And then I remember when Jim Crumley changed the outdoor industry and tree bark camouflage was born. And I remember, getting that first. I got it for Christmas. That's the only thing I asked for Christmas was tree bark camo. And I got a suit that my family could afford at that time. And it was super expensive, relatively speaking at the time. And I think it was 83, 84, maybe somewhere around in that range. And if one of you guys sit there and go, oh, I wasn't even born yet, I'm going to reach to the screen and smack you.
I wasn't going to say it, Steve. I was going to let it ride. No. I thought you were going to say, yeah, I got it for $15. And I was like, Steve, you don't have to date yourself like that. It's okay. We understand. No.
Yeah, thanks. But,
I'm just kidding.
But I remember, dude, I thought I was the shit when I had that on. I mean, I was just like, oh man. And I was like, oh, I'm never gonna get seen. I'm never gonna get seen. And it was really thin, so I had to layer underneath it. And I got seen. I got seen a lot because they didn't have like the sublimation that they do now in the fabric. And after about 3 washings. And my mother never got it that you can't wash hunting clothes in regular detergent. Right? Oh, well, she did. God bless her. And she faded my tree bark to almost white, so it almost became snow camo. to the point where it's like all the black, like the bark on the black, I had to go over with a Sharpie marker every couple of months just to darken that in and go over with a brown marker. And I let the gray kind of fade into itself, and that gray kind of turned into a blue, which was real odd. But, the point to that was that, yeah, we had stuff that shouldn't have worked, but it did. And the one thing that we had was the skills that my grandfather and my father taught me of being a woodsman. Learning how to play the wind, learning how to read a topo map. And you look at today, you got Onyx, Huntwise, HuntStand, you got all these different apps you can use, which are great. It makes hunting easier. But as the times change, everything gets better. I just don't think it needs to get so expensive that it just ruins everything for everyone else. And when we get hate mail, like I said earlier, it was like, oh, you guys are handed everything. No, man, we busted our ass for everything that we have today. And we're going to continue to do that. We make mistakes and we're going to get better. But, the things, the items that we use from our sponsors, we are with our sponsors because we use those products and we believe in them, and that's why we've been with them for so many years. And, there's the outdoor industry and outdoor television programming, as well as YouTube and the different channels. And those channels came about originally, believe it or not, the YouTube channels were for all the shows that didn't make it on network television. They were like, well, I got good stuff. I'm going to let my friends and family see it and see what happens. And then that's how the hunting industry came out on YouTube, was basically shows that didn't make it.
That's
and
okay.
They didn't have the proper format.
That's where we are.
You know?
No, just kidding.
Well, no, I mean, and when I said earlier that when we first started our show, we had every door shut and slammed in our face. Mm-hmm. I'm not joking. We had every door slammed in our face. And I remember when we got picked up by the Sportsman's Channel. 11 years ago, we got picked up by the Sportsman's Channel. And there were 480 submissions for new shows, mm-hmm. and they chose 8. Wow. And one of them was ours. Wow. And of the shows that were chosen, we were the only one that was in, we were in high 8, or mini DV, excuse me. We were in mini DV. And they said, we love your show. We love the premise, because we tried to break that cookie cutter mold of outdoor television programming, you know, mm-hmm. Like is literally like, there's so many shows. If you put them end to end to end, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Right.
You know, because they're all doing the same. They try to shoot as many animals as possible. And it's just bad. I'm trying to fix this here. Oh. Is that better or is that too hot?
Oh, you're good.
You know what? I like that better.
Okay.
Get that little ambient light. I'm not so hot. Yeah. But yeah, we had mini DV format, and they said, you know, we love your show, we love your format, because you guys are real. The first hunt that we submitted was a turkey hunt with Kathy Turner, who's an Olympic gold medalist, speed skater. And it was all public land turkey hunting. So we were the only show that did anything on public land mm-hmm. at that time. It was mini DV format. They said, you guys are back to storytelling, which they thought was really good, which quite frankly was the main reason we got shut down on every other year that we tried to submit, was because we were storytellers, you know, a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? We didn't want to whack them and stack them. We wanted to have that viewer join us for the story. And they said that we need 13 original episodes in 11 months. You need to sell all of your equipment, and you need to get high-def cameras and high-def equipment and all this other stuff, and make sure you abide by this whole set of programming guidelines and rules and regulations, and your audio sheets have to be done, and this, that, and the third. And we were like, okay, yep, great, yep. And we hung up the phone, looked at each other, and said, what the hell did he just say to us? We had absolutely no clue. So we had to learn on the fly, and we ended up selling all of our equipment, and we bought new equipment. And in 11 months, we had 13 original episodes for our first year. And we were actually in Nashville, 2011. We were at ATA in Nashville, Tennessee, when episode 1, season 1 kicked off. And we were in a bar next to the Grand Ole Opry, and they just so happened to have the Sportsman's Channel on. And our picture, mine and Jerry's picture, and Bobby Hart picture, and Teresa De Palma's picture, because there was 4 hosts in the very beginning. Our picture's up in a bar in between George Strait and Garth Brooks.
No way.
People recognized us because the show was on there, and people at the bar were like turning around, looking at Teresa, and then they saw Bobby, and then they saw Jerry and I, and then they looked up at the screen, and they looked back, and they looked up, and like, holy crap! Called the bartender. The bartender called the owner. The owner came in, and then they went online and they pulled out our headshot photograph at the time, our promo shot, and he printed it out, and we all autographed it right there at the bar before the episode was over. And he put it up in a frame. Excuse me, put it up in a frame, and it hangs up in the bar today.
Wow, that's so cool. That's so cool. And then today, for what Forever Wild is today, like it's all over the place.
Yeah, we've every year we try to increase our production value and get better storylines, and we try to learn from, like, looking back at past seasons and really picking them apart, saying I really like this, the nuance here, and I think a lot of that has to do with our age too. We're very, very particular, and myself, like I said earlier, when I was doing the wood burning out, I'm very critical about whatever I would put out, and the same thing with turkey calling. I'm very critical about it, and I'm super critical when it comes to the show and producing a good product, because I want to be educational, but I also want to entertain, right? And I want to be able to tell a good story. And I know Jerry feels the same way, and so does Steve and the rest of the staff. And you've got to meet Michelle, and you see the personalities with Jerry, Michelle, myself. You met Clayton last year.
Yep.
Son Clayton. And all of these different personalities make up our cast, right? And that's part of the story. That's part of the storyline. And it's real life. It's how it happens. And every year we try to get better, and we've got several million viewers now, and we air on Wild TV now, and we're coast to coast in Canada, 8 European countries, and New Zealand.
Wow, that's incredible, man. That's congratulations, and it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, it took a long time. Your overnight success story took what? 20 years, right?
It took a long time. I mean, and that's where I say, when people say, like, oh, you guys aren't shit, you have had everything handed to you, blah, 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 blah. God bless, man. That pisses me off, because I'm like, you know what? It cost me a marriage, number one. Tens and tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket. Missed birthdays from family, and friends, and weddings, and a lot of sacrifice has gone into this. A lot of sweat equity, a lot of blood has gone into it over the years, and there's times I've questioned, is it really worth it? When we do seminars on videoing, whether you're doing it for family and friends, whether you're doing it for yourself to be a better hunter, if you're doing it for a web-based or a digital platform, or if you're doing it for a network. We always tell everybody the same thing. If you want to do it for a living, and you want to do it for network television or something like that, think twice. Because if you have to be committed to it. You have to be committed. And like I told you at the beginning, that when I had doctors tell me that I probably would never walk again because of a broken back, I had family and friends tell me the same thing about a show. They're like, it's a pipe dream. What do you know about television? You'll never make it. You're never going to make it. I remember our first year on Sportsman's Channel, we were nominated for Best New Show. We were nominated for Best Hosts. And looking back at our show now, compared to our first show, it sucked. It was horrible. But it was ours, right? I mean, we were nominated for like 6 different categories. And honestly, dude, to us, that was probably the biggest recognition that we could have asked for at that time, was to say, holy crap, man, we're nominated. I think we had best small game, I think we had best script. And I'm like, we never wrote scripts back then. Everything was directly from the hip. Now, like when I don't know, I think seasons probably 6 through 9, I would do all the writing for, and like for the voiceovers, I still do. I do all the writing for voiceovers when I'm in post production, but we no longer do like intros, outros, because I would do the writing for that, and we got away from all of that. But it's crazy where we were to where we are, and you look at, like, we just had a meeting with Scott Sterling from Wild TV, and we would love to be on Pursuit again. But when they increased their fees and everything went through COVID, I didn't want to transfer that onto our sponsors.
Right.
It wasn't fair.
Mm-hmm.
We're not in this to make $1 million, and we don't. We don't make hardly anything. We go on trips where it's out of our pocket.
Right.
I don't want to pass that. I don't want to pass that along to my sponsors and our partners. It takes a long time to build those relationships and keep them.
Well, Steve, I got one last question for you, my friend, and we want to know. We want to know what drives you outdoors.
What drives me outdoors? Peace. When I'm outside, that's my church. That's where I'm close to God. And now it's got a deeper meaning for me. That's where I'm closer to my dad. I lost my dad last February. And my father was and is the inspiration behind Forever Wild Outdoors. He's the reason I started it. He was the muse behind it. So whenever my drive to be outside that is where I'm closest to God. That is my release. That is my peace. That's what drives me.
I love it, Steve. Steve, it's incredible, man. I'm glad that we made a friendship. We're super happy to have you on. Some really cool things coming down the pipe between the two of us.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to it. We can't thank you enough. It's always great spending the weekend with you. I wish we could spend more with you, honestly.
Well, we're gonna be we got something you got to tell your fans, don't you?
Okay.
What's going on this summer?
All right, fine. I was gonna leave it alone, but I guess if you went there, why don't you tell them for us, Steve?
So every year we do we film for the show. We do a nuisance whitetail hunt over on Jerry's farm, and yes, we have that many deer. Jerry's got that many deer on the farm that we have to take antlerless deer off, and we try to take dry does only. So we get a number of tags, and you're coming up this year, and you guys are going to fill a couple of those tags.
We're looking forward to it, and then we're gonna. I don't even care about the shooting of them. We're gonna process them and hang out and kind of do the whole thing. And I think that's gonna be the coolest thing. We're gonna do a live podcast while we're up there telling the story, and we're super excited about it, Steve. And we can't thank you enough, man. And
absolutely.
Why don't you tell everybody where they can catch up on episodes in between now and then and next season and all that, where they can find you, check you out, follow along?
Sure. So you can go on to our YouTube channel, which is Forever Wild Outdoors. And I think Forever Wild Outdoors, Adrenailne Adventures TV. Just type in Forever Wild Outdoors, you'll get it. You can get on our social media. You go to Facebook, Instagram. But we've got our Instagram or our YouTube page. Plus, you can go to wildtv.com. You can actually stream it live, and you don't have to pay anything. You can just become a member by typing in your name and your email address, and then you're registered. And then all new TVs that you get now, Roku, Apple, all of that stuff. Once you buy those TVs, you can actually download that app right to your TV. and you can watch us year round. And I think we've got 6 seasons on there. If you go up there, you go to categories, click on categories, and then just type in Forever Wild Outdoors, and our catalog will be up there with, I think, 6 seasons up on Wild TV. And we're actually adding more seasons to our YouTube channel, and we're in the process of redoing our YouTube channel now. So that's where they can go see us. And when we're in Connecticut, we're going to hook up, and we'll probably get out there next year, do a little turkey hunting together too.
Absolutely. Well, Steve, thanks again for joining us, and for everybody else,
thank you.
Thanks for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.
Peace out.